Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming. Huh? Will, you want to come over here on this side? He's good there? That's even better, isn't it? Good. As I mentioned, with me today is Detective Sergeant LaSolomon Archie, and he was involved in both of the cases that I want to talk to you about. Two newsworthy events happened this weekend. The first one, of course, on Monday was the tragic death of a young male in our community, 16-year-old Von Trace Banner. And here's a 16-year-old that was home going to his mailbox and was gunned down in his front yard. And we have released pictures of the car, which I just want to clarify with the media and our public. That car is in our possession here, being processed by our crime scene. I want to share the pictures with each one of you again. This is the car that was utilized in that shooting. What we don't know factually is who was in the car. So we're asking our public help in identifying maybe if they saw that car somewhere, maybe if they had any interaction with that car somewhere on Monday, and if they recognize anyone within that car on Monday. They could reach out and call 1-800-273-TIPS, which is our Crime Stopper number, and remain anonymous. Or they can call our lead detective in that case, Detective Clay Mangrum, at 772-462-3231. Repeating, they can call Crime Stoppers, 273-TIPS, or the actual detective, Clay Mangrum, at 462-3231. We will not answer any questions concerning that homicide. Next, the other news story that I want to share with you is Friday, July 14th, we, along with Palm Beach DEA, concluded a 6-month investigation into a very large-scale drug distribution network with the arrest of 7 suspects operating out of 4 smoke shops here in St. Lucie County. Now, I know Port St. Lucie had a big drug bust today where they claimed to have the largest fentanyl bust ever. I just want to say, go on the record, we beat them on Friday. These arrests came after detectives simultaneously executed search warrants at Smoking Buds in Fort Pierce, the Joint Smoke and Vape in Fort Pierce and Port St. Lucie, High Expectations in Port St. Lucie, and a residence located in the 1000 block of Southwest McCoy Avenue in Port St. Lucie. It is not uncommon, and we see this often, that drug dealers use a legitimate business to conceal their drug dealing activities, which was the case in this investigation. Illicit fentanyl, primarily manufactured in foreign clandestine labs, are smuggled into our country through Mexico. It's being distributed across our country and sold on illegal drug markets. Fentanyl is being mixed with other illicit drugs to increase the potency of the drug, sold as powders or nasal sprays, and increasingly pressed into pills to make look like legitimate prescription opioids. This morning, I believe the Port St. Lucie case involved pills, and that is a very common way to hide fentanyl. There is a significant risk that illegal drugs have been intentionally contaminated within fentanyl because the potency is increased, the cost is less, and drug dealers have been mixing fentanyl with other drugs including heroin, meth, and cocaine, increasingly the likelihood of a fatal interaction. Producing illicit fentanyl is not an exact science. They do it in a lab. They really don't have the measuring tools and the science knowledge to do it perfectly. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal depending on one's body size or tolerance of past usage. People ask, well, what is 2 milligrams? That sounds like a lot. The end of this pencil, which is included on a picture on the back board, is 2 milligrams of fentanyl. So you can imagine how easy it is to ingest 2 milligrams of fentanyl and end up dead. Drug trafficking organizations typically distribute fentanyl by the kilogram. 1 kilogram of fentanyl has the potential to kill 500,000 people. I cannot underscore the gravity of the potential effects in our community of the drugs seized in this investigation. The amount of fentanyl seized during this investigation could have killed every person in St. Lucie County, Martin County, and Indian River County. We all know someone who has unexpectedly ingested fentanyl, resulting in grave consequences. No matter where we go in our community, any resident you talk to, any corner of our community, they know someone, a friend or a loved one, that has been touched by fentanyl. In total, this investigation detective seized 2.75 pounds of fentanyl, which is 1.22 kilograms, or 1,225,669 milligrams. That is over 600,000 lethal doses. I'm going to say that again. 2.7 pounds of fentanyl, 1.22 kilograms, or 1,225,000 milligrams. That is over 600,000 lethal doses. Also, we seized 11.25 pounds of cocaine, 10 pounds of magic mushrooms, 8 pounds of marijuana, 58 bottles of lean, which is also known as purple drink or size up, which is a codeine amphetamine mix, $15,407 in cash, and 4 firearms. The individuals arrested include 52-year-old Richard De La Paz, and the charges are going to be back there on the table because the charges are so extensive. 29-year-old Francisco Alejandro Valencia, 21-year-old Sanders Emilio Mendez de Jesus, 44-year-old Luis Riviera, 67-year-old Rafael Luis Diaz, 31-year-old Jesus Luis Diaz, I believe they are brothers. Also, 20-year-old Natasha De La Paz, which is the daughter of the main target in this, Richard De La Paz. I would like to thank, again, the DEA out of Palm Beach, which assisted us in this investigation. And at this time, I would like to have Sergeant Archie come up, explain the pictures to you, and what effects this would have had in our community. So, Archie, you can come on up.
Good afternoon, guys. As the sheriff was indicating, the potency of the fentanyl is just one of those things that you can't even imagine. As we all know, some people's tolerance are a lot higher than others, but the value that this drug has is the reason why it's having such problems in our community. The 2.75 pounds of fentanyl has a estimated street value of over $350,000. The mushrooms themselves were close to $300,000 street value, and the 58 bottles of the lean that we received is about $4,000. That's nearly $700,000+. That is the reason why these guys are using it. The fentanyl, also, one of the bigger problems with fentanyl is addictive capabilities. Very similar like heroin back in the early days. It was a highly addictive drug. Once people get a hold to that type of drug, they become addicted, and they will come back and do this over and over. It becomes their new drug. It becomes their new cocaine. It becomes their new heroin. And a lot of times the drug dealers mask it within other drugs to hide it, and once you're hooked on it, it becomes your new vice.
I'm sorry, what was the street value of the fentanyl in particular again that was seized?
$350,000, sir.
All these different individuals, and those I guess the sheriff indicated that there was at least a couple of family members. Can you elaborate on that? Was it like a father, daughter,
Yes, sir. There was Richard Delapaz and his daughter Natasha Delapaz that both worked out of two of the four shops with Smoking Buds, which is one of the Fort Pierce locations. There was also Diaz, Rafael, and Jesus, father and son. And I believe that Mr. Delapaz and the other individuals in this ring were employees of the smoke shops.
Okay, so a father and son, and a father and daughter?
Yes.
And then the others were employees?
Employees, yes, sir.
But it was 4 smoke shops that you guys did certain parts at,
Correct.
as well as 1 residence?
Yes, sir.
How long do you think that these,
Yes, sir. For about 6 months, we've been purchasing from all 4 smoke shops throughout this 6-month period of time. Each individual had multiple sales to include each one of the drugs we mentioned. The only drug that we did not purchase during this investigation, unfortunately, was the fentanyl, but we were thankful that we were able to seize it to get it off the streets.
were they all kind of operating with knowledge of each other, or were they part of like a group or a ring or what have you, or?
I would say so, yes, sir.
So all of them kind of knew about one another?
Correct.
Is this considered a large operation?
I would- I would say yes. It's a very large operation, a very sophisticated operation. I mean, if you think about it, they're masking around a legalized business. There was times where we went in and the employees presented themselves to us as regular customers. We utilized different means to purchase to include other forms of payment, not to include cash. So they 100% used the businesses as a front to hide basically in plain sight.
If I may ask, how did you guys get wind of these guys? Because obviously they had been in operation for a while.
We got some pretty credible, reliable information, and we were able to utilize that information to start our investigation.
You mean like an anonymous tip or a source, confidential source, or?
It was pretty credible information.
I just want to expand on that. Many in our community have been affected by fentanyl, and as soon as they realized what this business was actually doing, they came forward and shared the information because they too feel somewhat vested in our community that they want this poison out of here.
Are these long-standing folks that have lived here for a while, or is it just, maybe a year or so come in, set up shop, and go from there?
Actually, the Delapaz family came from down south. Mr. Delapaz is actually on federal probation for a conspiracy-related charge for distributing narcotics in the southern regions of Florida. When we arrested Mr. Delapaz, he's actually on GPS monitor during this investigation.
So he's got a long history of selling drugs.
Correct.
The fentanyl, the 2.7 pounds or what have you, was that kind of seized from one particular location, or was that kind of like in total seized, like when you combine all the drugs that were seized at the various different locations?
Obviously this is combined throughout the investigation. However, the 2.7 pounds of fentanyl and the 11.25 pounds of cocaine, in addition to the vast majority of the mushrooms, were found at one location. That was the Fort Pierce Smoke Shop. Smoking Buds.
Smoking Bud.
Yes, sir.
Where's that at, like the address?
That is the 3300 block of South US 1.
The dollar amount on the 11.25 pounds of cocaine, if we have nearly $300,000 worth of mushrooms, $350,000 worth of fentanyl, how much was that cocaine worth? We could be talking over $1 million here.
Easily, because you got to think about just street value, depending on the market that obviously Colombians versus coming from Mexico versus the Bahamas, is going to affect the price. But you're looking at roughly between 22 and 28,000 per kilo. So just, and 11.25 is roughly about 5 kilos or so.
He's on his calculator right now. figuring it out.
I'm glad he is.
I ask you this question? What I'm not hearing is methanol. What I'm hearing like totally different drugs. Has meth been surpassed?
I don't think it's been surpassed. I think, like most things, it's supply and demand. The demand right now is fentanyl-based products. Cocaine has made a big comeback. Heroin has become more available. So I believe it's just as simple as the demand for these products are higher right now.
I guess the sheriff was mentioning that the drank, is that the DRANK, purple drank or
Yes, sir.
whatever? Is that made, how, for those who don't know, is that like the prescription codeine cough syrup mixed with like vodka or something, or what is that for the?
It is a mixture of like the codeine and then some other amphetamines, which create the reason why I call it the purple drink is because it gives off a purple color. It's very popular in the rap industries, especially in the Texas area. Is kind of where it became very popular.
You get this liquid codeine and you mix it with what other liquids? I don't know.
Well, the codeine itself is the bottle is the liquid itself. So once you mix it with, and a lot of the mixtures, honestly, is just for flavoring purposes to give it the appeal. But it's just like I said, it's a popular drink. A lot of the rappers, especially in the Texas area, they utilize it. It's popularized in a lot of songs, and unfortunately, it also has highly addictive capabilities and has been fatal in some instances to certain individuals.
When you mentioned the 10 pounds of magic mushrooms, they were talking about the psilocybin stuff that grows on cow patties.
Yes.
Also, in one of those pictures, he has candy, for lack of a better word, that's been laced with.
THC candies, giving them off like gummies, gummy worms, gummy bears.
In an effort to attract a younger customer. So you can see how they're attempting to cultivate customers and then keep them with adding fentanyl to their drugs.
And just to be clear, what record did this fentanyl seizure set?
This is the largest ever in, we believe, the 4 counties.
And I know that you said that the fentanyl was seized during this. Did you find it infused in any of the other drugs? Have you tested the other drugs to see if maybe fentanyl was infused in the ones that you seized there?
Well, as of right now, we've I actually have a picture of. If you, on the right, my right hand is the cocaine and the mixture that was tested, field tested on scene, and on the left is the fentanyl. Currently, our DEA partners out of Palm Beach are assisting us with utilizing their lab down in the Miami area to get the exact combination of what drugs were, and so we will have that information, I'm sure, sooner than later.
My last question to you is this is a pretty darn big drug. What type of dent is this making in the drug industry period? Do you think? You can calculate that in your mind. I can understand.
I would love to say that it was making a huge dent. Unfortunately, it's like any other enterprise. If you take one down, that gives the opportunity for another to step up. So I've been in the narcotics related field now as a supervisor, also as a detective for easily 15 years, and every time we get a big pop, we always think it's the biggest pop, and every time we think that we've made a big dent, and then within 24 hours we realize that there is a new kingpin or a new snake that has arisen. So it is definitely an impact. It's definitely going to hurt and cripple portions of the community as far as the drug dealers. They will be afraid. They should be afraid. However, the demand is always going to bring them back up. So we'll still be fighting this battle.
these individuals connected with smoke shops, any idea whether they had had any contact with this gentleman that, of course, was the police arrested yesterday, only because there's they had such a large amount of cocaine and fentanyl there as well, like.
Not to my immediate knowledge.
Now, you mentioned these guys had priors down south. Any chance there's gang activity involved?
We had no information on any gang relations to any of these individuals.
And then financially, you add up the 350, the 28 per, the 5 kilos, rest, that's about $800,000. Was there anything else that I missed between the fentanyl, the cocaine, the mushrooms on that dollar amount?
No, I think you have it all.
And lastly, we can get you stuff first, last, and your title. You should have done that early on. Just to have it.
Now the world will know. My first name is LaSolomon, LaSolomon. Last name Archie, Archie.
The S in your first name, that's not capitalized, is it?
No, sir.